Welcome everybody to this webinar. Thank you so much for being here. And I can see already people joining from around the world in the chat. Um, you can go ahead and introduce yourself in the chat. Thank you especially to those of you joining in Asia and the Pacific. I know it's very early in the morning to you, and it's great to see such a range of participants involved. My name is James Ellsmore. I'm the Director of Island Innovation, and we are hosting today's webinar as part of our series on the re-emergence of the tourism economy. Next week, we'll also have another webinar in this series on remote workers and digital nomads and what that new trend means for the tourism industry. But today I'm very excited to be talking about this topic of Chinese outbound tourism, and I'll shortly be handing over to our expert moderator and panel of experts to take over. In the meantime, I want to do a quick poll because we're very interested to know, for those of you here, a little bit more about you. So you should now see that on your screen. There are two parts of this question. First question, to know a little bit about where you're joining from today. And the second part is multiple choice, so you can select more than one to say which of the following describe you. And there's a couple of different criteria there. So I'll just give you a few more seconds to be joining. I know we'll also have a lot of people who've signed up who will be joining and watching the recording. We've had over 400 people sign up today, and I know many of those in the Pacific and Asia will be watching the recording, and the recording will be sent out to everyone who registered tomorrow. But for those of you live, it'll be a great opportunity to ask questions, have a conversation, and meet some more of the panelists. Okay, I'll just give it another few seconds, so please go ahead and answer the questions if you're ready. Okay, I'm going to end the poll now and share the results. So we can see that we have 40% of our audience joining live from Europe. That's maybe a time zone thing, with the Americas represented, well represented, always a good Caribbean contingent at our Island Innovation events. And unsurprisingly, unfortunately, no one joining from the Pacific Islands, Australia, New Zealand, but it is early in the morning there. So I've seen from our registrations that we have lots of people who will be watching the recording in that region. So hello to everyone who's watching the recording. And then in terms of the multiple choice options that were selected, I see around a third of people say they're in the tourism sector, a few people in media, government, etc. Around a third in academia, and then 13% in destination marketing. So we have quite a range of people joining today, and I can see that in the chat also. Just a quick remark on the chat. You will see a blue button just above where it says type message here. So when you send an introduction or a message in the chat, make sure that you've clicked that blue button and that you've selected the correct person, either a private individual or panelists and attendees. Right now, I can see a lot of message coming in, but most of those are only visible to our panelists. So I would encourage you to go ahead and resend your message, resend your introduction, and select all panelists and attendees so everyone can see that. And go ahead and introduce yourself if you haven't done already. Hello, Simata, who's from Tonga, but joining from Japan. Hello, members of my team from Island Innovation, Simon. Amit's joining, Ronald's joining from Belize, Ibrahim in the Maldives, Ambassador Ricate from Brazil. Great range of people who are participating. Farah from Dominica. Amazing. Lots of different places, as always, from our Island Innovation series. Okay, so before I hand over, one quick remark. We have the chat. We'll encourage you to use that. As I said, I can see a lot of messages coming in only for panelists. So please do select that all panelists and attendees button. But if you have questions, don't put them in the chat because we might miss them as they go along. So please go ahead and add questions in the Q&A box. At the bottom of your screen, you'll see a button that says Q&A, and you can go ahead and add questions in there as we are going along. Some of our panelists may also choose to type in answers to those questions, and we'll make sure that we are answering all your questions, but please do put them in the Q&A box and not in the chat. So one last thing about Island Innovation, we host various events throughout the year, as I've mentioned. We also work with a range of governments, destinations, and private sector companies on areas around communication. Please do, if this is the first one of our events, I know a lot of you, it's our first event, please do check out our events page on our website for more information about our upcoming events, and we hope to see you at those. But I am going to disappear now and invite our expert moderator to join. So Professor Wolfgang Alt is in Germany. He's been working in this Chinese tourism sector for many years, and we're thrilled to have him put together this webinar. So I'll hand over to you, Professor Alt.
Thank you very much, James, and warm welcome to everybody. And as James has said, so also I saw that we have some participants burning the midnight oil from places where it is already midnight or even later. Actually, also one of our panelists, Anita, is based in Hong Kong, where it's already after 11 p.m. So thank you for everybody to be so interested and so diligent to do that. So my name is Professor Dr. Wolfgang Georg Alt, and let me introduce briefly the other panelists, which I think also you can go live again now. So we will have first a welcoming address by Joel Kemelo. He is working for the marketing of Papua New Guinea. So, and there it's already after 1 o'clock in the morning, so that's why this will be recorded. All the other stuff you see here is actually live. After that, I will give a short keynote to set us up for the current situation and the development, of course, with a special focus on islands. And after that, we have 3 panelist interventions. The first one coming from Hans Lagerwey, who is the CEO of Albatross Travel, based in Copenhagen and in Beijing. And then we will have Anita Chan, who is the CEO of Compass Edge, based in Hong Kong. And then Richard Adam, who is the CEO of Trend Transfer and also one of the senior experts of Advantage Tourism. What that is, I will talk a bit about a bit later. And then we will have half an hour of Q&A and panel discussions. So, and of course, please feel encouraged already now or during the presentations to put your questions into the question and answer box. So maybe not in the chat box, because there is a lot of things going on in the chat and they might get lost. So use Q&A for your questions. And at the end, James, our host from Island Innovation, and I'm very happy and proud that we can cooperate for this webinar together with him and with his organization. He will give some closing remarks, and then we will finish at 4:30 German time, 3:30 GMT, and whatever the time is over at your place. So without further ado, let's ask James to start for us the presentation by Joel Kemelo, Marketing Coordinator, Papua New Guinea Tourism Promotion Authority.
And
James,
sorry, just a quick correction. We'll be finishing at 5:30 German time, 4:30 GMT. So it's we've got an hour and a half, full hour and a half webinar.
Sorry, yes. This is GMT times. Yes, you're so right, of course.
Okay, I'll go ahead and play the video.
Good day, everyone, or good afternoon, everyone, from wherever you are joining in for this wonderful seminar on the Chinese outbound market. My name is Joel Kemelo, Senior Marketing Officer for Papua New Guinea Tourism Promotion Authority, and also Marketing Officer in charge of the Asia market for Papua New Guinea. Today's topic is basically on PNG's future plans, with the Chinese outbound market. As you know, COVID has affected our industry. However, I'd like to explain a little bit about how Papua New Guinea came and ventured into the Chinese market. Back in 2010, Papua New Guinea signed an ADS, Approved Destination Status, giving us every right to market and promote our destination in China. So since signing the Approved Destination Status, Papua New Guinea Tourism Promotion Authority since 2011 to 2018 received a total number of visitors from China, about 55,000 in total tourism arrivals for China. In that 55,000 Chinese visitors, we received a total of almost 9,500 holiday travelers within the span of 8 years. During that time, we've also identified 3 key factors that have affected the growth of our Chinese market. 1 being the air connectivity, 2 the visa issue, and 3 is the language barrier. Basically in 2018, when Papua New Guinea hosted the Asia Pacific Economic Conference Leaders Summit, we were given the opportunity to have bilaterals with the Republic of China and Papua New Guinea to address certain key economic issues for the 2 economies. Papua New Guinea talked about tourism as being one of the key issues. Therefore, during 2018, there were key agenda discussion between having a direct flight from Shanghai to Port Moresby and also relaxing the visa protocols for Chinese passport holders for Papua New Guinea. Post-APEC here, in the last 8 years, Papua New Guinea has slowly grown confidence for the Chinese market. In 2019, we hosted our first bona fide Chinese tour groups for Papua New Guinea. They came and experienced our culture, they came and experienced our food, and they came and experienced our land of 1 million different journeys. 2020 was looking to be a promising year, and then that's when all it happens, COVID came into play. During COVID, our market has not really recovered. We have lost, and we have not even seen any Chinese visitors into Papua New Guinea. So in 2020 to present, Papua New Guinea has maintained its market presence with the assistance of our TPA marketing representatives based in Beijing. They have been able to maintain our market presence through digital media using Weibo, WeChat, and other various social media platforms in China. As like any other destinations around the world, we are still suffering, and Papua New Guinea is looking at adapting its marketing strategies and promotions towards maintaining the Chinese market presence. We are more focused on embracing the digital marketing platforms. Papua New Guinea is no different to any other destination around the world. With our Safe Traveler Guide introduced, PNG has refocused on domestic tourism while recognizing that international market presence must be kept alive. PNG TPA office has formulated a key marketing strategy plan for 2021 to focus on 1, digital marketing, that is basically e-learning for travel trade agents, hosting of regular webinars with travel trade partners in China, hosting or attending virtual expos, and also maintaining the social media platforms in WeChat, Weibo, Baidu, and etc. By realigning from our usual marketing plans pre-COVID to the following sizable travel show that focus on niche products, looking at roadshows in Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3 cities, and sales calls to the only biggest travel wholesalers and retail agents. We will mainly focus on digital marketing while the travel and tourism industry is yet to relax its travel restrictions. This is basically destinations such as in the Pacific region are adapting to COVID on how best we can survive. We need our markets to open up again. China being the largest travel market, to have a focused travel bubble around China could be a possibility. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you very much. I think, well, obviously, what Joel has been talking about, well, we all can relate to that. The high expectations for 2020 and then the deep fall into the abyss. But there is light at the end of the tunnel, and I would say the light at the end of the tunnel is a Chinese lampion. So let's see that we can have a look at the.
Wolfgang, do you mind putting your video on? Sorry.
Say again?
We can't see you.
You can't see me? Why would that be the case?
You turned your video off.
That might be the
There
reason.
we go. There we go.
That might be the reason. Okay, so you had to make do with my voice, but now you should see me. Yes, okay, very good.
We can.
So yes. So and so let's now yes. Let me give you a short overview based and following up on what Joel has been saying on how the situation is, and so I hope that you can see my presentation now. Let's see. There it is. Is it visible?
Yes, that's great.
Okay, so challenges and opportunities of China's post-virus outbound tourism, of course, especially for island destinations. So very quickly, so who are we? So COTRI is a research institute specializing only on the Chinese outbound market, has by now a history of 17 years, and I started it after I stopped being a tour operator and becoming a full-time professor. So just quickly, you know who's talking to you. So I started to go to China first time 1978, quite some time ago, and have been working for a long time as a tour operator, and have been until last year for almost 20 years been a professor for international tourism management. And you can see I'm working with quite a number of organizations all connected to international tourism. And on the left-hand side, you can see at the bottom the little book I published last summer about Chinese outbound tourism in the 2020s. So first part, concentrate on what are the challenges and opportunities of China's post-virus outbound tourism. First of all, the good news is the appetite for travel is likely to rebound. So this is a result of, there are many surveys, but this one is from the China Tourism Academy, the official body in China for such questions, and they published this article, and many other surveys confirm that as soon as possible, Chinese are still happy to travel outbound. And on the left-hand side, you can see the development in 2018 and 2019, and the forecast. So by now it's already we know that the falling down to 80 million travels, most of them in the beginning of the year in 2020, but our forecast for next year is still reaching 100 million, and 2022 reaching more than we had in 2019. So we are more optimistic than maybe you have seen PATA forecast recently. And to explain, Greater China, that means Chinese people traveling to Hong Kong, Macau, and Taiwan, and the rest of the world is everybody else, including all you participants. And on the right-hand side, also good news. From August onwards, Chinese travelers were allowed to travel to Macau without having to go into quarantine after return, because in Macau there has not been a single case of the virus. And so only in the last 5 months, we had already almost 2.5 million Chinese people traveling there. So if the Chinese are able to go there and they believe it is safe, they go there. More good news. Do the Chinese people have the money to travel? Yes. We can see that actually China has been the only G20 country in 2020 which had a positive GDP growth of 2.3%, and for 2021 it's forecasted to have the highest GDP growth of all G20 countries other than India. So the top 10% of the Chinese society, and we have to realize only the top 10% of the Chinese have a passport and have the money to travel, certainly beyond Hong Kong, Macau, Taiwan. So this part of society is still rich enough to travel internationally. The reasons why most Chinese are traveling outbound have also not changed. So to see the world with their own eyes, to settle new experiences, very important also to gain prestige, confirm their status and their self-image as somebody who is important, who has made it. Following serious leisure interests, so more and more Chinese define themselves as being somebody interested in golf, photography, whatever. Also very important, following the examples of their peers, so doing what the other people are doing, and their idols, some celebrities. And there are many more reasons. Of course, business travel, traveling for health, for education, for religion, for shopping, for transporting, what happens in other parts of the world, all that. But the important reason for most Western, let's say, tourists to travel, which is to relax and to have a holiday, this is something which is true for short-haul trips. So if you are in the neighborhood of China, like Jeju Island, or maybe even, let's say, Bali, that might be the case. But for long-haul trips, it is rather activity, not relaxation. So from all the surveys, we can see that about 2/3 of the Chinese are saying, as soon as the visa are available again, the air connections are back, and I can trust in the safety of the place, then they want to start travel as soon as possible. On the other hand, a lot of things have changed, especially how most Chinese people want to travel outbound. And this is something which is basically good news for islands. So there is an increased interest in nature experience. There's an increased awareness of healthy surroundings and of health. In the lockdown periods, people have learned again the values of family and of good friends. So they are more interested than before in traveling with their family or with their friends in small groups. There is much more interest in new destinations and in destinations where not too many other Chinese people are traveling to. So opportunities for places which until now have not seen so many Chinese tourists. Interest in smaller destinations, not so much anymore in big cities. Again, for most islands, very positive. And also more interest in contact with local culture, authenticity, sustainability. And that's very important, I think, because in the past, many destinations, that includes islands, had rather mixed experience with Chinese visitors. In many cases, they were just attracted by the low prices, and they had only limited interest in actually the experience in the destination, and they did not take much care of local culture and nature. You all know what we are talking about here. So in the post-virus times, Chinese outbound travelers want to trust the host. That is certainly an important point. And so to show them that you are engaging for the Chinese market, and one example would be you have to accept mobile payment. This is a not an option, but a prerequisite. Showing your knowledge that you learned something about the needs and expectations of Chinese travelers and reacted to that. Your sympathy for the visitors and their interest in them as persons, not just saying, "Ah, you're a Chinese, I know what you want." And of course, short term, also the question of hygiene and sanitation. So, and the post-virus Chinese are looking for satisfaction, maybe more than before. So it's a good time now when you don't have so many or even zero Chinese visitors to think, okay, how can we make our product more interesting? So if you have a beach, maybe think about this not only as a place of recreation, but also, especially for kids, that can be also an educational place where kids learn about the ecosystem of an atoll or of an island. The restaurant can become in the afternoon a school where you teach people local dinner tables, which can be from using complicated cutlery to trying to eat with your hand. A hotel can offer some gimmicks for technology, and so on. So there is a big opportunity for the new wave of Chinese travelers to get them to come specifically to your place, to stay longer, to spend more if you have the right products. So now quickly have a look, what does that mean for islands more specifically? So many island destinations, and we have been working with a number of them, have suffered a similar fate in the years before the pandemic struck. So they were discovered as a hot destination, and you had a huge number of Chinese coming, often in big groups, and often meeting infrastructure which was not prepared for that. And so anyway, Chinese outbound travelers tend not to come back again because they have still to see so many other places. And if they were not very satisfied, they would not recommend this place to their peers. So third point, in many places we saw that as the products were not adapted and they were offered the same thing which were offered to recreation-seeking Western tourists, satisfaction was not that high, and after a few years, another place became a hot destination. Just to look at some numbers, on the left-hand side, you can see arrival numbers for Fiji, Maldives, Mauritius, Sri Lanka, and of course, 2020, it all goes down to almost zero. But even if you look at 2019, you can see that the high time for these places was already earlier, maybe 2015, 2016, and already there was a diving going on earlier. And also for Bali, you can see it became a hot destination, so it has been doubling arrivals from 2014 to 2017 and stayed high in 2018, but already 2019 was starting to go down. So this is, of course, what we have to have a more sustainable approach so that we can avoid having just this up and down movement. So when we talk about challenges and opportunities, there is a new approach needed to a sustainable Chinese outbound tourism. So we can't go back to 1919 and do things like they were before. And I put some pictures here. You will be familiar with that. So this is not what you want your destinations to look like. So we have developed a program, just to introduce quickly, which is called Advantage Tourism Recovery and Resilience Program, which is a synthesis of all our experiences in the past years and the new developments during the pandemic. So providing answers how to react to the challenges which already existed before, and they're still there. So we have climate change, and we had all these discussions about over-tourism. We have in many places seasonality, and we had a lot of places where you had increase of arrivals of quantity, but not the quality and the management going in the same way. So therefore, we are offering for destinations to help them to learn how to get people more interested in the local culture, find those customer groups who are interested in that, and in concentrating on training and empowerment of the local stakeholders instead of spending money on just the big Chinese social media. And Anita Chan will talk more about how you can be more careful and more successful with your marketing money, maybe by using mini programs. And so therefore concentrating on a higher level of satisfaction of the Chinese guests, because they will turn into ambassadors of your destination, and they will recommend your place to their peers who will then come as well. So to put this into a picture, this is what we call the paradigm triangle. At the base, of course, what is the situation? So obviously, most islands do not have mountains, so you can't go skiing there. So you have to look what you have. But then learning and understanding what does the market ask for, what can you offer. On the other hand, of course, digitalization is another big topic. We probably won't talk so much about today, but this is the other part we have to be careful about. And therefore having a KPI of trust, so that Chinese really feel welcome and that they really feel that you made an effort to offer them what they want. And based on this embeddedness, that they feel like they're welcomed with open arms and become part of the community, and then also they're able to take more care about their surroundings, and so in the end having a higher level of satisfaction, not only for the guests but also for the staff and the locals and the company and the environment. So let me finish with a quote from the CEO of PATA, Mario, who said a few days ago, "The future of tourism will depend more on length of stay and visitor satisfaction than on a generic and simply headcount of arrivals. Metrics that track such indicators will possibly become a new standard for determining tourism potential and performance in what is likely to continue to be a volatile world." So, and I think this is what we talk about today, and I'm happy that we have some experts here who will tell you some more details about this idea. So this should be all for me. Just to say, we have a publication called COTRI Weekly, which is free every week. Please feel free to subscribe to that. And we have an online training program, which we just updated. And of course, Advantage Tourism is, we think, a useful tool to help you to get up to a better start once the Chinese start to travel again. With that, thank you very much. And we go back to our panelists. And James, back to you. No? Hello?
Oh, no, please go ahead and introduce the first panelist.
Okay, I will do that. My honor. Okay, so then let's go straight away to our first presenter. You can already see on the screen with some, are these ships or boats? Ships, I think, behind you. Unmute yourself. So
yeah,
you can't hear. Yes, okay.
They are definitely ships.
Yes, so and I'm sure you will tell us in a minute why you have this behind you. So this is Hans Lagerwey, who is the CEO of Albatross Travel, and he will tell you about traveling to non-tropical islands.
Exactly. Thanks, Wolfgang, because yeah, what most people have in mind with holiday islands is beautiful beaches, palm trees. And I actually want to talk today about the biggest island in the world, but you cannot find any palm trees there, and it's Greenland. And why talking about Greenland? So I'm responsible for Albatross Travel. We have Albatross Expeditions. And one of the big surprises, probably for many people, is that China is the second biggest outbound market to destinations like Antarctica, or even the #1 outbound market for the actual North Pole. And yes, you can travel to those destinations. China is not yet the one of the big outbound markets for Greenland, but we expect that the destination is perfect for our Chinese travelers. So let me show you a couple of thoughts from my presentation, and let me know. It should work now. You should see my screen. If not, please shout. So
go ahead and put it in presentation mode if you can to fill the whole screen.
Is it not in?
The bottom right-hand corner. Let's see. There's a. There we go. That's great. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. So let's take a little step back. Let's think about before Corona, before the crisis. Over-tourism was one of the hot topics in tourism, and which is not, a strange issue if you see the growth of tourism globally, and in certain destinations we really had a problem of managing crowds. Well, this is why we think Greenland is one of the destinations to go for the future. It's the complete opposite of over-tourism. So there's no crowds, there's no you know, big scale. It's all very pure and authentic. And if you think about the number of tourists currently, it's of course zero, but before Corona, the number of tourists to Greenland, it was at the same level as the number of tourists, for example, visiting Liechtenstein in Europe, or San Marino, this mini country in Italy. So really small numbers, but a beautiful big island. So as I said, it is the biggest island in the world. People think it is very cold. Well, actually, in the summer it can get quite nice. It is in the summer usually above 0 degrees, but it can go up to 15, 20 degrees. So it's absolutely not horrific. Population is very small, so only 50,000 people living in Greenland, but an enormous tourism hotspot. And yeah, plenty of places around and opportunities to visit Greenland around. The east side is less, you've got less settlements there, less cities. So the east is really about nature, pure nature. It's not that accessible. So the way to access is more via an expedition cruise vessel, while the west side has got settlements, and here you can stay in very comfortable hotels and have very nice restaurants. So a little tour, and I'm clicking now on my slide. There's a small delay, and there's still a delay. Yeah. So why do we think Greenland is a destination of the future? Well, first of all, you have the UNESCO World Heritage ice fjord in the little town of Ilulissat, which is a phenomenal place to visit, and it's easy to visit. You can just walk around there. There's a lot of attention to Northern Lights tourism. Well, the best place, and this is scientifically proven, to see Northern Lights is Greenland. Of course, the Greenland ice cap has a lot of attention, actually from a global warming perspective. It is an enormous ice cap, and you can actually visit it. You can walk on it, you can even camp on it. And that is what you can do via the location Kangerlussuaq. There, it's easy to get on the ice shelf. So with all those words, it might be clear that Greenland is an adventure destination. It's perfect for hiking and kayaking in the summer, for dog sledding, snowmobiling in the winter. It is an authentic experience, so don't expect any tourist traps that you see around the world. It is very remote, but it's easy to travel to. There's daily flights into Copenhagen, well, in before and hopefully after Corona times, and also daily flights to Reykjavik. So not very difficult to travel to. Everything is small scale, but with today's comforts. So you have really nice hotels and actually really good restaurants here. And referring back to the over-tourism locations, this is absolutely a destination where you will be welcomed with a smile. So next to visiting Greenland with ships, we also have there and on the western side, hotels, adventure centers, you name it. One of them is indeed in the location Kangerlussuaq, which is also the place of the main airport of Greenland. And thanks to Volkswagen, this is the place for an easy access to the ice cap. And why thanks to Volkswagen? Because they developed here a test road for their cars. They're not using it anymore, but we are definitely using that access way. And these are some of the visuals. It's beautiful, pure nature. And as I said, if you come back then in your hotel, it's also a very comfortable place. Ilulissat, I referred that it's the place for the ice fjord, the birthplace of many icebergs. Some say it was the birthplace of the iceberg that sank the Titanic. I don't think that's scientifically proven, but it's definitely a magical place. And it's also a brilliant place for example, whale watching. And here some visuals of Ilulissat and also the little settlement of Okatsut. So this is a settlement an hour sailing from Ilulissat, where we bought a hotel and a very, very tiny lodge for more day trips if people really want to experience an authentic fishing settlement where only 30 people are living. So what's holding us back? Well, the first thing that's of course holding us back is borders and closed borders. And it's interesting also having discussions with Wolfgang about it. After Corona, people see China as very risky because it is the virus originated in China, they say. And although you know, things are perfectly under control in China, especially compared with the situation in Europe, the borders remain closed. But even before Corona, we had some challenges with Greenlandic tourism from China. And the simple thing that was holding us back were visa requirements. It is such an, yeah, I call it sometimes stupid, old-fashioned thinking of governments. Oh, let's check, let's control, let's ask visas. So for Chinese visiting Greenland, they need to have 2 visas. They need to have a Schengen visa, and then they need to have an additional Greenlandic visa. And we have had conversations with the Danish government who say, well, no, Hans, don't worry about it. It's very easy. You just apply for the both visas at once at our embassy. Well, it's not that easy, because if, as a Chinese tourist, you want first to visit Iceland and then on to Greenland, then you have first to go to the Icelandic embassy and then again to the Danish embassy for the additional Greenlandic visa. So I keep complaining about it. It's old-fashioned bureaucratic governmental thinking and not thinking in opportunities, because you know, with the wealth of experiences that we see, we think Greenland could be a top destination for Chinese travelers. But the other thing is flight connections. Although, you know, I said it's not that bad. It's you have a daily flight usually from Copenhagen and a daily flight from Reykjavik. Would we love to have more flights? Of course. And technically, it's even possible with the length of the runway to fly directly non-stop from China to Greenland. For me, it is really visas. And what I know from our experience traveling, selling travel in China, Chinese travelers are used to deal with visas, but if there's easier solutions, definitely those destinations have the preference. To finish off, a cheers, and we like to cheers with Greenlandic coffee, and I have to warn you, it's not coffee. It's a little bit of coffee, but it's mainly some nice shots mixed and added to that whipped cream. Absolute delicacy. So please, I would like to invite every one of you, come and experience this either on board of our ships or in one of our restaurants in Greenland. And let's cheers to a nice future with Chinese travelers visiting Greenland.
Okay. Hans, thank you very much for that. And so we thought it's a good idea, as you have been saying also at the beginning, not to talk about the obvious islands, but to have another one. And I'm sure that in the discussion, we will have more opportunity to ask what is the specific behavior of Chinese tourists going there, and what do you see also for the future for that. So Hans, thank you very much for that. And so now a quarter to midnight in Hong Kong, but Anita, you look still like the springtime. So thank you very much for joining us. And Anita Chan, who is the CEO of Compass Edge, she will give us some more IT and marketing oriented advice on the Chinese market after this bloody, excuse my French, virus is gone. Anita, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Professor Wolfgang. Let me share the screen quickly. Okay. Okay. Okay, so hello everyone. This is Anita Chan, CEO of Compass Edge. I think my screen is frozen. Let me try one more time. Then I'll get started. Okay. So thank you, James at Island Innovation and Professor Witkan at COTRI for the speaking invitation. I spoke at many conferences before on China Outbound tourism, and I'm very excited to be here today, although like Professor Witkan say, it's already close to midnight in Hong Kong. So let me get started. Okay, so instead of talking about my work life, here today, I'm going to show the audience a little bit about my personal life. So I'm a Canadian Chinese and love to travel. So I understand both the Western and Chinese mentality. I'm showing you some of my travel pics at some islands and rural destinations and where you may be located. And after Hans' presentation, I would definitely go to Greenland as my next destination. Anyway, you can see other than sun and beaches, there are so much more I have experienced. So hopefully in today's section, in addition to my professional opinion, I hope my personal travel experience and preferences can be interesting to you too. Okay, very quickly about Compass Edge. We are headquartered in Hong Kong with an IT office in Wuhan, China, and a European sales office in UK. We are an award-winning MarTech digital agency for the China outbound market, specialized in the tourism sector with over 550 clients globally. And let's start with some good news for this audience. According to ITB China Travel Trends Report in 2020, island travel at 87% is the most popular travel theme in the post-COVID era, followed by family trip and outdoor and adventure trip. Also, self-driving and FIT, free independent travel, at 71% are most favored by Chinese travelers in 2021. So now the big question is, how do we capture this? The e-commerce model is actually changing in China. I come up with this analogy and hope it is easier to understand. In the West, our traditional model of e-commerce is very much search engine driven. It is like going to a restaurant, you're given a menu. So you look and search what you want, maybe do a few comparison, but you like it, put it in the shopping cart, purchase and done. But in China, it is more socially driven and more a recommendation engine. So it is like you go to a Japanese sushi train restaurant. The conveyor belt is like different platform that they will automatically pushing, attractive products right in front of your face, rotating every second. You do not even need a menu. When you walk in, you look at the customer sitting next to you, look at what he or she ordered, looks good, and you pick it up. Then you talk to your friend, have a great time, and then you pick up whatever that comes by that look attractive to you or what your friend recommend. Then later, the restaurant manager comes out telling you what's fresh of the day, and then you pick that up too. So in China, the e-commerce model is changing from give me what I want to tell me what I should buy. So that is very interesting. Okay, and now due to COVID-19, according to McKinsey, the top accelerating trend in China is digitization. Digital tools becomes very popular and very important, and it is expanding to all age groups and to all city tiers. So not just limited to young people or primary and secondary city, it is all across China. So as for our industry, to capture on the digitization trend, we need to understand the Chinese traveler's journey and be present on as many digital touchpoints as possible for a successful restart of Chinese outbound tourism. Remember the conveyor belt analogy I just mentioned? You need to be on the conveyor belts. If not, no matter how attractive you are, Chinese will not see you. This is why my company come up with this Chinese traveler's journey model after surveying many young Chinese FIT travelers. So from the inspiration stage, Chinese can be easily influenced by what they see on social media, from their friends and families, or from KOL, key opinion leader, aka influencer, and KOC, key opinion customer. Then Chinese will plan the trip via Mafunwo, Little Red Book, Weibo, and OTA like Ctrip, Meituan, etc. Before they book, Chinese will actually go through a validation stage that they will shortlist their option and then check out the Chinese website, official account, and also from user-generated content. Only then, with all positive sentiment, Chinese will book mainly via online and offline agencies. So travel partners are very important to us as well, because only 10% plus will book direct. Then they go and experience. But this is not the end. They love to share. They will share their experience on WeChat and Weibo, Little Red Book, OTAs, and their sharing become inspirations for others. That journey continues for another Chinese traveler. Now, due to COVID-19, since international leisure travel has stopped, what emerged in China is cloud tourism. It is to use live streaming, short video, VR, AR to stay connected with potential Chinese travelers. Museums have done a lot using these tools, and this will be great for island destination too. Okay, and now when outbound tourism really restart, how can you capture more revenue and enrich the experience while Chinese are at your destination? The answer from a digital standpoint is actually mini program. You know, Professor Witkin just mentioned that. He is a real example of a WeChat mini program that my company developed for an independent hotel. You can see it focuses on all aspects of experience, from dining, shopping, activities, in addition to just a hotel stay. And everything you see here are transactional. So they can click and buy, and that enriched experience, and then everyone can get more revenue. And now, while we wait for outbound tourism to rebound, I'm just launching an interesting project, building a community of key opinion insider. I call it KOI. Online now is flooded with influencers, KOL, and they are expensive and commercial. So what I think leisure travelers will value or will progress to are getting authentic insider news from our industry colleagues, but not to sell your own brand or know-how selling, but real insightful content to help the travelers to get the most from the trips. So this is what I come up and predict as the future of the online travel ecosystem. And I hope I'm right to some extent. So that is the end of my presentation. Hope you have enjoyed. I will join the other speakers in the panel discussion and answer any of your questions. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Anita. I think that was very, very insightful. And I especially like this idea to compare looking at the menu with looking at a sushi restaurant conveyor belt. And I think this is a very powerful image and very easy to understand. This is how the things will happen in the future. And I also thank you for this koi initiative. We will all turn into Japanese goldfish in supporting you in that. I'm certainly are happy to be a koi with you in the future. So with this, we are just a little bit behind time, but so I think we're still good. And certainly we don't want to miss the presentation of Richard Adam, the CEO of Trend Transfer. And you can already see from the background that he is up in the mountains. And so let's see what he can tell us before then we start the Q&A. So I tried already in between to answer some of the questions, but still feel free to ask more questions. But now it's over to you, Richard.
Thank you, Wolfgang, and hello everybody watching. Well, different to the background, this is the area I try to spend my COVID time here. I do also have some experience in living in South Pacific Island for some substantial time, because I'm actually Australian national. So I'm not the pure mountain guy who doesn't know what he's talking about when it comes to island, hopefully. Well, as the last of three panelists, you're always facing the danger that everything has been said already, but not from me. So I try to put some additional spices to the dish we're cooking here today. We all have learned a lesson, and the pandemic has accelerated trends that have been there already. And in a few aspects, it has brought some additional changes. And from my point of view, there might be a few misperceptions I would like to address. So number one, many people think that tourism recovery on islands and elsewhere is purely a matter of sales, marketing, or promotion when time has come. So as nothing has changed and nothing was learned. Misperception number two, the Chinese source market predominantly provides low-yielding package tour groups and scares other target groups away. So for me, both positions are dangerous and not true to the full extent. So let me reflect misperception number one. Activating or reactivating tourism basically isn't rocket science, especially in particular for high-profile destinations. In particular, if you care for visitor numbers or head counts, which is when this is the result you finally measuring, it's not rocket science. But visitor numbers or head counts isn't the core objective of tourism development. Now you may say, we all know that, but then again, you have to be confronted with the question, why is visitor numbers often seen as the one and only benchmark and the one and only figure that is circulating around? As we know, it's all about creating jobs, entrepreneurial opportunities, also for locals, creating investment, education for jobs, quality and enrichment, strengthening local and regional value chains. So profits remain on the island to a great extent. Just today, I have read a statistic that from mass tourism, package tourism, only 14% of profits may remain where actually the service was delivered. Also, we want to enhance the standard of living in balance with sustainable environment, heritage, and character of an island. Sustainability is no longer just an interest of locals, it's increasingly an interest of visitors. People make decisions based on the carbon footprint or other ethical values that decision may influence. Now, to get there, an island has to establish certain policies, strategies, and procedures, in particular, a set of KPIs which measure and monitor these objectives. After all, on islands, locals still want to have a happy life in a beautiful island for good. So in other words, before you think about sales, marketing, and promotion or distribution, an island has to be prepared as a destination according to these objectives. Which is far beyond bricks and mortar infrastructure and, as we said, visitor numbers. Now we come to the second misperception, the Chinese source market. The Chinese source market has diversified and developed over the last couple of decades. The first timers, the package tour groups are still a significant volume, but there is an increasing number of experienced travelers who rate experience more than they rate price. As we have seen in the statistic from Wolfgang, we shouldn't forget about the fact that the Chinese source market has in 20 years developed and emerged than no other source market on the planet. And there are visitors who are very well providing a yielding business and who are educated, albeit they are demanding travelers. Now, to tap these segments, visiting trade shows and spending money on traditional advertising may not be the strategy you can build on. You have to know the right peer groups to talk to, as the Chinese outbound business is still a B2B business. If I have learned one thing in my 20 years dealing with China outbound tourism from different perspectives, talking to the right people is key. Also, you have to know how to convince them in terms of offerings and services. And you also have to know the digital space they live in and act accordingly. Chinese have their own digital microcosmos and a series of other specifics. So from experience, we know that it might scare away other visitor groups when one source market becomes too dominant. Well, that's not a Chinese phenomena that is applicable to any dominance of any source markets. Even the own members of that ethical groups don't want to see only their fellow citizenships around. We all want diversity. So in consequence, especially on islands, the balance of your visitor group is a crucial issue, and you have to take care of that in your strategies before you ramp up promotional activities. As Wolfgang said in his introductory presentation, we cooperate with a group of seasoned experts who address all of these matters in a proven, integrated, and systematic approach, preparing the place and enhancing the value in inbound business from China or other strategic source markets. And this program is called Advantage Tourism. It has a focus on China due to core competences and given experiences. And because this market is the biggest and the fastest to recover, and it is also more complex than others, and also it works completely different. But the principle applies to other source markets as well. And these principles are: number one, prepare your place, including policies for sustainable development, local value chains, including the relevant KPIs, create value for targeted and balanced source markets by understanding customers better than the competitors do. And this reflects in developing the right value-based products and experiences and provide educated service, including the learnings and changes of the pandemic. Now, in both aspects, our approach is about creating ownership by enabling your own resources instead of leaving a consultancy report and walk away. As we all know, the world is not short of good initiatives, concepts, and strategies on paper and PowerPoint charts. On paper, everything sounds good, everything works. In real life, things are a bit more complex. And the key to make things happen is ownership. Ownership means that everyone involved knows exactly what his or her role is, and that is basically steered by KPIs and proper education and training. So this is what we take into consideration with our approach in Advantage Tourism. So I hope I was able to address the subject from a different perspective and give a little bit of additional spices to our discussion here. And I'm happy to be available for Q&As. And so far, Thank you for your attention. It has a pleasure being with you here and see what happens.
Okay, thank you very much, Richard. So I think I've been following the chat, and there have been a couple of people saying you're right. So, and they agree with what you're saying. So now it's time to start our discussion and especially our Q&A. So there have been some questions which I tried to answer on the site, and maybe I can just quickly answer to everybody a few of them, and then we look at more specific ones. So the question which comes very often, do Chinese people, are they willing to travel long distance? And the answer is yes, if you give them a reason to do that. So there are Chinese tourists going to Galapagos or to Fiji or to Tahiti 30 hours in the airplane, but only if they think it's worthwhile, if there's something special waiting for them at the other end, something which has been recommended by their peers, something which has been done specifically for the Chinese market, then yes, of course, the majority of Chinese people stay in Asia, like the majority of Europeans stay in Europe because also of money and time restraints. But there is quite a big group of people who are willing to spend many hours in the aircraft if they see is something special. Also, there's some bragging power into that, of course, that they can show they do something different. Another question which came up, which many people are asking, so that's why I want to answer this here quickly. Do Chinese people have enough time to travel? And so again, most Chinese are what we say money rich, time poor. So again, the top 10% of the society. So that they have not much time because they only have 10 days holidays, or they are self-employed. So, and there is a lot of money to be earned in China if you're working hard and you're in the right position. So, but saying that, we can see now that in the last few years, and certainly in the new decade, you have more 55 plus people, so who are semi-retired or retired, and they have more time to travel, and many of them have already been working in international relations and in international environment, so they also will be confident to travel by themselves. So this group of people is certainly becoming more important, and not this cliche of the Chinese jumping in and out of the bus and doing island hopping, and every day want to go to another island. So maybe this is some to answer some basic questions. So a question which maybe goes, Anita, I can don't go away. Anita, I wanted to give to you. Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm coming. Okay. Like my internet is not very steady, so
okay. Never mind. So there's a question by Shawnee Kuya. What are the Chinese views with the neighboring countries, such as the Philippines, as a tourist destination? How can a small country as the Philippines boast its tourism to attract more Chinese tourists? So
actually, Philippines is not a small country in a way. Actually, we have quite a lot of clients in Philippines. The advantage, is close by. It's very easy to get to. And when you just mentioned about money rich, time poor, that's something that is a very easy selection, for them to pick. And I think, because, they have Boracay, that they just got what they call a cleanup, so to speak. Now it's, beautiful and clean beach. That attracts a lot of people. I think it's just unfortunate that because of COVID, but if not, when the beaches begins to open up in Boracay, we are seeing a lot of interest. We are seeing a lot of interest going to Philippines as well. So I think they just need, sorry, my internet. I think they just need to say, according back to my presentation, with quite limited budget, even they can get onto the social media, do some digital marketing and get the exposure as a destination, and then partner with, for example, Frigi. They are doing live streaming or C-Trip, whatever, to promote the destination and some packages, and then they can get the attention of the Chinese travelers. That's what a lot of the destination board in Asia are doing.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much for that. So maybe another question for Hans, because the question here is from Farah. Here in the Caribbean, many of the smaller islands are obsessed with investing in international airports and five-star resorts. What exactly is more attractive to Chinese travelers? Simpler, authentic accommodation, or ultra-modern, all-inclusive, or exploring the outdoor? So you have been telling us about a island which certainly does not have a huge international airport and certainly does not have five-star resorts of the way we are visiting. But I saw on the chat that a lot of people have been saying, oh, you sold Greenland to me, I want to go there. So you made a very good impression. But so from looking at a perspective of a place which is not like that is all about international airport and five-star resort. So Hans, what would you say? What makes this your place, Greenland, or also Iceland, for instance, or going to the North Pole, attractive for Chinese visitors?
Yeah, let me start saying that there is no 100% one right answer to this, because the Chinese traveler doesn't exist, because there's many different interests and many different needs. But in generally, I would say the Chinese traveler is an experienced traveler. So Wolfgang, you mentioned they have to have a reason somewhere. They usually don't go somewhere just for the beach. So they have to have an experience that they can share, an experience that they can photograph, and that could range from anything very active to cultural to think experience marketing. What I have learned from a comfort level, that definitely over the years I saw the demand for more higher end luxury accommodations increase from Greenland, but the important is still the experience. And I give you an example. The Chinese travelers, they like our new more comfortable ships with bigger suites, etc. However, they love to sacrifice their nice, warm, cozy suite on a ship, pay $250 extra, and spend a night with our expedition staff camping in Antarctica, camping in a bivy bag in the snow. So again, it's not about them the comfort. It's not comfortable at all, but it is a tremendous experience, and that's what counts.
Yes. And I think this is certainly, I think this is the most important answer to all the questions. If you ask what does the Chinese outbound tourist want, you're asking, I'm sorry to say, the wrong question. So there are many different kinds of Chinese customers, travelers, people who have a lot of experience in international travel and speak perfect English, who have been maybe a student abroad for years. And you have, on the other hand, people who come first time out of China and who live in a third-tier city, in a small city with only 2 or 3 million inhabitants in China. So so the point is, and Richard has been talking also about this as a part of this advantage tourism approach, is the point is to analyze exactly, and of course we're happy to help with that, to analyze exactly what is the offer you have or you can produce. Like, I think Hans, this is a very good example of spending a night in the ice, have the experience. So where you can find people interested in that. So certainly the majority of Chinese tourists will say, I don't want to spend 250 euros to stay in an uncomfortable situation, but you don't need 1.4 billion customers. Oh my God. So if you can find for this project some product, maybe 5,000, 10,000 customers for many island destinations, that's already more than enough. So and that is exactly the point, that you pinpoint what kind of people like that, and then you offer something specifically for them. I think this is the key thing to understand. And what we have been seeing, and I've been seeing myself for the last, I don't know, 10 years, that most Chinese tourists, when they come back from international travel, say, oh, it was nice, it was okay, but they are not fully satisfied in most cases because they feel the locals have not done enough to make us feeling welcome. So, and there is, you can do more for us specific group of people because they should know we want this and this. So, and this is certainly a key point. So, Richard, you have been saying your experience can be put together in saying you have to talk to the right people. So maybe this question goes to you. Somebody who has not told us his or her name is asking, political policies are very essential for the development of outbound tourism in China, such as visa application and self-quarantine requirements. How do you think local DMOs could convince Chinese government to open the borders or travel bubbles? And Dred at the beginning was talking also about travel bubbles during the pandemic times. What could be some efficient strategies? So do you think DMOs or NTOs can convince the Chinese government to open some travel bubbles?
Okay, if the question starts with, do you think, then basically I come up with an opinion, right? That's the consequence. And my opinion is no. I don't that tourism organizations or DMOs cannot influence Chinese government, because the Chinese government is would not probably to bother too much about particular DMOs all over the world. And personally also, I mean, we have seen it for a year now. I fully understand that the tourism ministry lobbies to reopen to get some business. But we also have seen from opening again, the virus comes in and spreads around again, and then we have to close down again. We have seen this on various occasions. And probably from a general point of view, tourism destinations should take the opportunity now to prepare the destination until the real safe travel with all the vaccines are out there, and not force just reopen and do the same thing they have done before. I don't think that is taking us anywhere.
Yes, yeah, I would fully agree. And also, I think what I think cannot be underestimated is the pressure from within. So I think even the Chinese government, even so it's not facing elections, it has to keep local people happy, especially the top 10% who can travel abroad. So that there is certainly a pressure. Well, we all want to travel again, and the Chinese are part of that as well. So the Chinese government will have to keep a balance between trying to make sure that the virus is not coming back, and also giving back the freedom of traveling abroad to the affluent part of the society, because that's what they want. So, and that therefore, I think in many discussions I saw recently, it has been underestimated. It is not just a decision what does the Chinese government want, but many governments would like us to stay all at home and don't talk to anybody, so that will be more safe. Yes, but that's not how human beings are working. So, and therefore, probably to say I'm the DMO of Hamburg or even the DMO of Germany, and I sent an email to the Chinese government and then they changed their policy. That I fully agree with Richard. This is certainly not to happen. But the Chinese themselves, they have been pushing open the borders 20 years ago, and they will do so again. So maybe I think we are almost there, where we have maybe 5 minutes more. There's a question from Ronald Peterson, I think from Belize, and part of the question is, how do we educate our people in the tourism sector for Chinese tourism? Of course, there is, Anita has talked about the mini programs. That's very interesting. But also, we are also working together with Anita. So we have an online training program called China Tourism Training, which has actually 5 different branches. So a special one for transportation, a special one for hospitality, retail, attractions, destinations. And this is online, and it is done together with the Hong Kong Polytechnic University School of Hotel and Tourism Management. So you get a real university certificate at the end. And so Anita is also one of the teachers, so to say, in that online training. And that is exactly, again, part of the things we are seeing now is the time before the Chinese come back to prepare and better than before, not just open the door and are happy about arrival numbers, to prepare better also that the people know how to increase satisfaction for the Chinese visitors. That is the key point. And so therefore, Ronald, thank you for asking this question. So yes, educating the people to know that is. So we are saying in this training, the worm has to be tasty to the fish, not the fisherman. So it's not a question what you want, it's a question what the customers want. And in the case of the Chinese, depends on, well, if you're in the Philippines or in Vietnam or in Thailand, it will be not so hard for you to understand Chinese people. But if you are in the Caribbean or in the South Pacific, culture difference is probably much bigger. So this is a key point to see what do they want, and also what do they want different from Western tourists, which is in one sentence. They don't want to come there and stay for 2 weeks doing nothing, just relax in the sunshine. So this is not what most Chinese people think of a meaningful way of spending their limited leisure time they have. So maybe we can finish, we have only a few minutes left, by a final round, starting with Hans. So where will we be in 2023 with regard to Chinese outbound tourism? And I will ask all 3 of you that question. 2023, where are we?
Well, I think we are completely recovered by that time. And I would not be surprised if China outbound tourism then again breaks new records. We know the demand is there. We know that the money is there, and people will just wait for the opportunity then again to arise.
Okay, good. Anita.
Yeah, I'm the optimist too. So, I talk about revenge traveling. So I think that's going to happen, latest 2022, 2023 is going to bounce back. People have the urge to travel. And that is something, definitely concur and agree with Hans. But from a digital side, that's a very hard question to answer because, things change so quickly. So we talk about mini program, it's so new, like 2 years, and then now it's so mature. So in about 2 years time, some new tools may come up, some new things may come up, and some new platform may come up that we cannot even predict. So from a digital side, I really do not know what's going to happen, but from the actual travel demand and everything, I think Chinese outbound is going to do very well.
Yeah, thank you. And certainly digitalization will become more and more important, whatever will be the form of it. Yes. So, Richard, last word to you.
Well, I'm also optimistic that in 2023, we will all travel again without any boundaries. I'm simply for the reason that vaccination ratio will have built up by then. Having said that, I also think that a couple of destinations, including Ireland, will also have adapt to changes because people will have some trauma or will have some new priorities. Some destinations will have adapt to changes, will have done their homeworks, and some destinations basically just think, let's sleep, let's wait till it's over, and then everything's going back to normal. I don't think that will happen. So we have the cards reshuffled, and we will have winners and losers when the time of reopening is fully recovered again.
Yes, I think that is a very good final word, because certainly, well, we call this challenges and opportunities, not without a reason. So there are a lot of opportunities where we say the Chinese are looking for new destinations. They want to go to places where not so many Chinese people are there. But there's also the challenge that competition just got bigger. So some Chinese are saying, well, actually, I learned in 2020, even in China, there are some nice places. And it got more bragging power also to go to some places inside China. So this idea only outbound tourism is prestigious has been become a little bit smaller. So we have more competition from domestic tourism in China, but also from all the new destinations. And so if you are one of the new destinations, one of the islands which have not seen so many Chinese tourists yet, so you are on the receiving end if you, as Richard said, do your homework. And of course, this is something where I'm sure those who are participating here, that's why you're here, to know how to do your homework. And certainly island innovation has in its name innovation. So certainly James and his group will help you with that. And also, of course, we from China Outbound Tourism Research Institute and our colleagues and partners are also there to help you into the 2023. We all have been told just now by everybody will be a bright future if we play our cards right. And with this, thank you for everybody. I saw that we had almost everybody who tuned in also stayed for the whole webinar, which is always a good sign. And with this, for the concluding remarks, I hand back over to James, please.
Well, thank you so much, Wolfgang, for bringing this excellent panel together, covering this topic from so many different angles, and of course to Richard, Hans, Anita, and Joel for his video, for all of your insights. I think there's obviously a lot of enthusiasm on this topic, perhaps a lot of new angles that people here had not explored before. We also have had a lot of people joining over Facebook as well, in addition to the 120 or so who were live during this webinar. So thank you, and really appreciate your time. Just quickly, for those of you still here, don't forget to join our webinar next week on the remote work and digital nomad tourism topic. Will be a very, very interesting discussion from quite a different angle, and we have an excellent panel lined up with representatives from Curacao, Madeira, Arranmore in Ireland, and one that has just escaped my mind as I don't have it written down in front of me. But some very good speakers for that session. And also for our Island Finance Forum taking place in April, that will cover a variety of topics. And do please get in touch directly with myself or with Wolfgang if this is something that you need assistance with for destinations, or you see an opportunity for your island or your destination to adapt to Chinese tourism. They have COTRI have a ton of expertise that they can bring to help islands make that transition and potentially gain a very interesting niche in the Chinese tourism market. So we've really appreciated this partnership to pull this together. I will just have a quick look at the chat. Lots of things coming through. Wonderful. We will leave it there and see you next Tuesday for the next webinar. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a wonderful week. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.